Miracle in WWII. Could these words be the title of a new movie with a host of featured actors and actresses? A super special for television viewers? A smash hit Broadway stage play? Emphatically no, but they are just about the best words in my vocabulary to identify very personal happening, a heartwarming, deeply emotional experience. It is just as vivid in my memory today as when it actually took place on Christmas Eve in December 1944. But, a miracle? I thought so then. I still think of it in the same way. That will never change. In December of 1944, the 80th Infantry Division to which I was assigned and then under the command of General George Patton and the Third Army had been ordered into a rest area near Seine-Union, France after several months of combat duty. This Christmas away from home would at least be a quiet one, I thought, a welcome relief from the hectic pace of the previous months after the Allied breakout from the beaches at Saint-Lô, France following D-Day. It didn't happen that way. The rest period had lasted just 6 days when orders were received to pack up and move out at about 3 p.m., December 23rd. The weather, which had been relatively mild and sunny, became progressively colder and cloudy as our truck convoy rolled on in what turned out to be a journey of about ISO miles, non-stop, which however required 24 hours over roads jammed with men and equipment. The snow started to fall about noon o December 24, becoming heavier as the day went on. Rumors were rampant, fragments of information filtered down through the Kilroy was here GI grapevine. There was a German counterattack underway, in force. An entire U.S. airborne division was completely cut off. Enemy troops in American uniforms, using American vehicles, were infiltrating our positions. The situation ahead was critical. The rumors proved to be all too true. Where were we going? Nobody seemed to know. If they did, they weren't telling us. Finally, the road signs began to read Luxemburg. Where's that? Someone asked, even though it didn't seem to matter to me at tow time. How utterly wrong I was. What was happening was the so-called Battle of the Bulge, the last major counter-offensive action of the war by the German armies. It was the heroic stand of the completely enemy-surrounded 101st American Airborne Division to hold the railhead at Batigny, and the cold-blooded machine gun massacre of a group of defenseless American prisoners of war in a snow-covered field at Malmedy, Belgium. The snow became very heavy and had begun to change the nature of the countryside, decking the splintered trees with a soft white mantle, covering the burned-out vehicles which had been bulldozed into the ditches alongside the road, and the ugly, gaping ruins of what had been homes and churches and schools. The senseless destruction that is war. Then, at about 4 p.m. on Christmas Eve, my miracle to be started to unfold. Unbelievingly, our convoy began to pass through a sector practically undamaged by the fighting. Finally, everything ground to a halt in a square of small, quaint village. In the gathering dusk, to me it was like a Christmas card scene, a winter fairyland. The harsh rasping noise of the truck motors finally was stilled, and a beautiful quietness pervaded the entire scene. The griping I had done about the bone-chilling weather, the cold rations, the seemingly endless journey, now seemed to be of little consequence. Gathered in the square were many of the villagers who told us we were in WWII. In the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg, there was instant friendliness as they opened their hearts and homes to us. I began a friendship with Bertha and Jean-Pierre Bauerweiler and their children which endures to this day. Later that evening, I attended Christmas Eve Mass with the family in their beautiful village church. Here, I thought, were people who had bravely endured 4 years of cruel and oppressive occupation by the Nazis. Yet as I searched their faces, I saw only faith and hope, courage, determination and serenity. In the solitude, with the gleaming candlelight, I heard again the familiar Christmas hymns and, in spirit, I was at home with family and loved ones. The figures in the crib scene seemed to take on a dimension of reality, the bittersweet memories of Christmas at home, and the poignancy of the moment overwhelmed me and I wept openly and unashamed. The services ended, we walked back through the blacked out streets to tow little home where I was to spend the next 5 weeks. The newly fallen snow crunched softly underfoot, and even though our conversation was hampered by my limited high school French, I was aware of a close bond of understanding and togetherness. The snowfall had ended and I was suddenly aware that there was a change taking place in the sky. It just didn't seem possible, but it was finally beginning to clear after weeks of incessant cloudiness, rain, fog, snow and very limited visibility. Just as we reached the door of my new friend's home, the moon began to shed its soft light, framing in muted detail the people, the streets and the rooftops where tow chimneys were spiraling smoke up into the still, clear air. Then, incredibly, there were the stars, sparkling in the heavens in all their pristine glory, with the evening star gleaming brightest of all. I thought this is how it was on that Christmas Eve in Bethlehem of Judea over 2,000 years ago, when shepherds watched and the herald angels, proclaiming the birth of Christ, sang, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth, peace to men of good will." If my faith had been shaken, and I would not dispute that it had been at tones, it was humbly and firmly renewed at that very moment. Then, after only a few brief moments, the clouds rolled in again and the stars were gone, but nothing could change the fact that I knew they were still up there. Just a freakish weather pattern, someone might ask. Quite possibly, but I will never believe that those few precious moments were anything but my very own miracle. Later, as I drifted off to sleep, I somehow knew that peace would come again and that I would be reunited with my loved ones. How long that would be didn't seem to matter anymore. A few words of a poem I recalled seemed to sum it all up. God's in his heaven, all's right with the world. Eventually, even youthing was all right, all over the world, and it can be that way again, I know, if all peoples will accept the ancient miracle of Christmas that gladdens the world every year.